Shalom everyone, this is the second part of the study of Isaiah 9, 2 through 7, and today I'm gonna break down the verses one by one and show why Isaiah 9 and Isaiah 10 is actually chapter 10 is speaking about the Jerusalem, Hezekiah, and the battle against Assyria in a simplistic kind of way. I'm going to show you from the Bible itself. I'm not going to quote you any Talmud or rabbinic literature, only from the Bible, the Word of God. Okay, so let's start. The people that walked in darkness. Who are the people? Jerusalem and King Hezekiah. They walked in darkness, and what happened? They have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them had the light shined. Upon Jerusalem, because the army of Assyria surrounded them, and it was a day of trouble for them. They were afraid. Where do we see that? Let's go down. First of all, if you want to read for yourself the story of King Hezekiah, Judah, and against King Assyria and his army, you should read Isaiah chapter 9 and 10, Isaiah 36 through 39, and those references. Now let's get to the verse. And they said unto them, Thus said Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble and of rebuke. So it was a day of trouble for them, and they were afraid. Let's see, be strong and be courage. Be not afraid nor dismayed from the king of Assyria, because they were very afraid and they worried. Again, we see it in Isaiah 10:24. Therefore thus saith the Lord God of hosts, O my people that dwells in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. Why? Because they were afraid. This is exactly what Isaiah is speaking about in Isaiah 9 verse 2. The people that walked in the darkness, and after they won the war, they have seen a great light. Okay, so let's continue. Thou hast mastered all the nation, and not increased the joy. They joy before thee according to the joy in harvest, and as the men rejoicing that when they divide the spoil. For thou hast broken the yoke of his burden, and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. Okay, so first we see, first I want to focus on, for thou hast broken the yoke of his burden, and the staff of his shoulder. Isaiah is telling God, you have broken the yoke of his burden, of King Hezekiah in Jerusalem burden, and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor. Who was oppressing them? The King Assyria was taxing them, oppressing them, and came to fight against them because they didn't pay the tax. We see that Isaiah 10:27 is speaking exactly in almost the same words about this. And it shall come to pass in that day, day of the victory against Assyria, that his burden shall be taken away of thy shoulder. So that the burden of King Assyria and the Assyrians will be taken away of thy shoulder, the shoulders of Jerusalem and King Hezekiah, and his yoke of thy and his yoke from thy neck. You see the word yoke, burden, shoulder. Broken the yoke of his burden and the staff of his shoulder. Now, what about the verse before that? Thou hast multiplied the nation. Who's he speaking about? He's speaking about the Assyrians. The Assyrians were in a great multitude multitude of armies and people, and what? And not increase the joy. God did not increase their joy. They who, Jerusalem and King Hezekiah, joy before thee, according to the joy in harvest, and as men rejoice when they divide the spoil, because they won the war. All the Assyrians dropped dead, almost all of them, and then they could divide the spoil that they brought from Egypt and the Cushites. If you read the references that I give you, you will know. Okay, so let's see. In the next verse, we see that as in the day of Midian. What is as in the day of Midian? He broke his burden, and the rod of his oppressor, like the day of Midian. What happened in the day of Midian? So I'm going to go with you to Judges 7, and I'm going to compare between and parallel between the battle of Gideon against Midian, found in Judges 7, and Hezekiah against Assyria, the battle that we are talking about now, in Isaiah 9 and 10 and all these references that I showed you. There is a parallel. What is the parallel? Let's see. Who said there is a parallel? Isaiah himself also in Isaiah 10:27. He repeats what he said in Isaiah 9. And the Lord of hosts shall stir up and scourge for him according to the slaughter of Midian. So in Isaiah 10 he's talking about Assyria. Now he's telling us that it's going to be according to the slaughter of Midian. So let's see the parallel that we have. Gideon against Midian and Hezekiah against Assyria. Let's see. First point is few against multitudes. 300 men won against multitudes of people of Midians. Exactly in Hezekiah against Assyria, few against multitudes of people. And I will show you the references and the text in a few seconds. Gideon against Midian, you have battle ended overnight, or in one day, in other words. Battle ended overnight. And Hezekiah against Assyria, the battle ended overnight. Gideon against Midian, you have the dividing of the spoil. And in Hezekiah against Assyria, you have also dividing the spoil. So you see, according to the slaughter of the Midian is something you have to consider, because Isaiah is twice telling you that it's going to be like the day of Midian. But it's going to differ in one thing, and I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Okay. The point that few against multitudes, Let's see the verses. The battle of Midian. And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of east lay among in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand by the seaside for multitude. You can see it in Judges 7:12 and also Judges 8:10, where the number there I think is 125,000. Assyria. Let's see Hezekiah and Assyria. And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of Assyrians 185,000. 185,000 army men were dead. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpse. And this is exactly what Isaiah 9:3 is saying. Thou hast multiplied the nation. Whose nation? The nation of Assyria was in a great multitude of people, like the Midianites back then in Judges. Let's see the other point. The battle ended overnight. Midian. And it came to pass the same night. Judges same. So overnight the battle was fought and ended. and in Assyria was the same. And it came to pass that night, we see in 2 Kings 19:35, and also we can see in Isaiah 10:7, he writes, in one day. Okay, another point that it's parallel between the battles. One is dividing the spoil. In Midian, and they spread a garment and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. You can see Judges 8:24 through 26. Why? You can read it for yourself. And Assyria, exactly, you can see it. And as the men rejoice when they divide the spoil, you remember in Isaiah 9:3, and as the men rejoice when they divide the spoil. But there's going to be a difference between the battles, and this is what exactly Isaiah is pointing out. Gideon gets Midian. For every battle of warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. The first part of 9:5. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Isaiah 9:5, second part of the verse. So you see, Isaiah is making pointing out the difference between the battle of Midianites and the battle of Assyria. That the Midianites was like every other battle, was with garments of blood. But this war against Assyria was not with blood; it was only by fire. Let's see how Isaiah in other places talking about this method, burning fuel and fire. And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpse. Now Isaiah is speaking about this event in Isaiah 10:16 through 18. Therefore shall the Lord of hosts, send among his fat ones cleanliness, and under his glory he shall kindle a burning like a burning of fire. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One for a flame, and it shall burn and devour his thrones. His means the Assyrians, and his berries in one day. You remember, in overnight, one day, the same verse that I quoted before. And shall consume the glory of his forest. It's a parable. It's continuing in Isaiah 10. The parable that the forest is actually the army of Assyria, and his fruitful field, both soul and body, is going to consume both soul and body, and they shall be as when a standard berry fainteth. So it's gonna burn them from inside and consume them, and not there will be any shed of blood. It's gonna burn from inside them. The angel of the Lord was sent to do it. Now we know that angels are sometimes appear as fire. Who made his angel spirits his ministers a flaming fire? So when the Lord sent the angel of the Lord to burn them, this is exactly what happened. It burned them from their souls, from the internals, and they all dead corpse at the morning. So when we come back to see Isaiah, read Isaiah from 2 until 6, we know what he's talking about. Therefore, when we come to verse 6 and 7, it all makes sense, because now we read in context what Isaiah is speaking about. So in the next video, I'm gonna show you and explain you this verse 6 and 7, and we will focus about who he's talking about here, and what are the titles, and who is he talking about. It's very important. So stay tuned for the next video, part 3, and see you next time.